Hello, everyone, and welcome to another WSI Digital Marketing webinar. Now, before we get started, I just want to do a quick sound check to make sure I'm coming through loud and clear. You can see our screen, and you can equally see me on webcam. If you can just let us know by typing into the question box, that would be great. Awesome. Okay, so again, thank you for joining us on this latest digital marketing webinar from WSI. This time, our webinar is entitled 7 Steps for Attracting More Qualified Leads Online. Now, my name is Cheryl Baldwin. I'm the Marketing Director at WSI's head office, and I'll be your host for today. Before we get into the presentation, though, just a couple of quick housekeeping items to cover off. This webinar is being recorded. I already see that question in the chat box, so don't worry, we're recording it, and you will get a copy of the recording as well as a copy of these slides later on today. We are going to be doing a Q&A session as we do with all of our webinars. We will get to as many as we can within the 45 minutes we have with you here today, and try to even answer some of those in the chat. So be sure you're writing those into the question box as we're presenting, so we can handle those at the end. Now, we do have a number of people across all over the world joining us today, and sometimes if you run into audio issues, we recommend just maybe disconnecting and jumping back on. Or there is a phone option with GoToWebinar, and there's a number of local numbers you could call in instead to make sure that you have all the audio and all the information at hand. Now, before we get started, something about WSI, just so everyone's on the same page as to who we are. WSI has been around for just over 25 years now, and in that time, we've helped over 100,000 businesses with their digital marketing strategies. Now, whether you're a new business just starting out or a business that's more established, we know that digital marketing in general can be somewhat complex. And our goal at WSI is to help you navigate that complexity. And one of the ways in which we do that is through webinars like these, which are really designed to educate and share best practices around specific digital marketing topics. As I mentioned today, our topic is on online lead generation, and specifically the key steps and essential building blocks to attracting more qualified leads. Now, many businesses think an online lead gen strategy is simply about what digital marketing tactics you're going to use to generate leads. But in reality, an effective online lead gen strategy really starts with a plan of action and by understanding who your ideal target audience is, then engaging them in various ways to nurture them into a sales-ready lead for your business. Joining us today as our webinar presenter to talk more about the 7 steps on attracting more qualified leads is Gerardo Carrick, one of our very own WSI digital marketing consultants. Now, Gerardo is a digital marketing, multicultural, and technology leader, as well as a managing director at one of our WSI agency offices located in Atlanta, Georgia. As a WSI consultant, he is passionate about helping businesses improve their ROI by generating more leads and sales for their business. Before Gerardo joined WSI, he held executive positions in various Fortune 500 companies, including Disney and Time Warner, and helped various brands launch their products and services across the globe. So I know he's really excited to share his expertise with you. So Gerardo, can you join us on webcam so I can pass it over to you to kind of go through everything today?
Of course. Can you hear me well?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you for inviting me to present today. And hi, everybody. I hope you find the time we're going to be spending together the next half an hour valuable for your business. Okay. So I just wanted to take you through a very quick agenda of what we're going to be covering today. So first of all, we're going to be talking about what is a lead, right? I just want to make sure that we're going to have a common understanding of what we mean by qualified leads in the context of this webinar. Then we're going to go through the 7-step framework that we recommend, and at the end we're going to have a quick recap, summary, and opportunity for questions and answers. Okay, so if we move on to the next slide, let's talk about what is a lead, right? And in simple terms, a lead is an individual or an organization with an interest in what you're selling, right? That interest is expressed by sharing their contact information like an email, a phone number, a social media handle. So a lead is somebody that we know, right? So it's not a visitor to our website. It has to move from anonymous to actually known, and that happens through the information. Now, not all leads are created equal, right? And you might have heard concepts of cold leads, warm leads, hot leads, depending on how engaged they are with our businesses, with our services or our products. If you're in a more B2B environment, maybe you've heard about marketing qualified leads, sales qualified leads. Marketing qualified leads being leads that are engaging with our marketing activities like webinars or content that we're putting out there. A sales qualified lead is a lead that has already started a conversation and we have identified that they have a clear intent to buy, right? And that means that they have the finance means, the authority to actually do so, right? So that's a sales qualified lead and a high quality lead. And there's a lot of conversation between the importance of what is it better to have a lot of leads, a quantity of leads versus quality. And in reality, it's really a mix, right? We're looking for as much quantity we can generate of leads of the quality that we need to close for our business, right? So obviously quality is going to be key, but we also want to be able to scale that up to achieve our goals. Now, if we talk about the framework specifically, right? And let's talk about this framework. You'll see that in this framework, we have 7 steps to attracting qualified leads online, right? And the first one starts with goals. And goals, in this case, what we're talking about here is how many leads do we need to actually achieve our revenue goals, right? So this is very, very specific to your business objectives. Once we understand that, we really need to get a very good understanding of who our buyer personas are, right? Who is our ideal customer? What are they interested in, right? How do we define them? After that, we can start thinking about what journey do they take to actually make a decision to purchase a product or purchase a service. Actually, can we move to the next building block so we can see some of the questions? Exactly, thank you. So what steps does this buyer go through in their journey to actually purchasing a service or a product from us? The fourth step of this framework is about content and offers, right? What type of content will motivate this potential buyer to exchange their information for that, for that piece of content, so we can actually know who they are, right? So they come into our website, they are an anonymous visitor, and we're really trying to get them to exchange that information so we can now track them and we can actually engage with them. After we have all of these four pieces, we can actually put together a conversion path, meaning what are the pieces we're going to be putting together in our system to actually generate that conversion. And it's up to that stage that we can start thinking of channels, right? And this is interesting, and I think Cheryl mentioned it at the beginning. Many clients come to us wanting to talk about channels, right? They come into us thinking about, okay, I'd like to do some social media advertising, or I'm thinking about engaging search engine optimization or any other tactic. When in reality, those tactics and those channels are a consequence of understanding what is it that we're trying to achieve, who our target audience is, what's their journey, and how do we attract them, right? So the channels is really a result of that strategy that has to be put together previously. And the final step is reporting, right? And reporting is all about insights and closing the loop between our marketing activities and our sales results. And this is a crucial part that a lot of businesses forget about, but it's very, very important because it's the only way we can actually optimize and improve our campaigns in a way that generate the results that we expect. So let's move on to goals, okay? So let me take you through an example. Let's think about we have a business, and our business is selling outdoor grills, okay? And let's say we have a website, an e-commerce website that sells outdoor grills, okay? And let's assume that we want to generate $100,000 more in revenue, okay, from online sources. And let's say that the average sale price of one of our grills comes at $1,000. So if we know this, then we know that we need to generate 100 new sales, right? And if we've done this in the past and we know that on average we close 10% of our leads into sales, then we know that we need to generate 1,000 more leads, right? Now, if we have been doing this for a while and we have an idea of what is the average cost per lead for us, right? And let's assume it's $20, then we can estimate that with a budget of $20,000, we'll be able to generate $100,000 more in revenue. Here, we're just plugging in and applying the information that we already have. So the point here is that if you know what your marketing plan can generate in terms of new leads, and you also know your conversion rates, you can actually predict future sales, right? You can actually create an engine and scale it up and have an idea of what type of revenue you will be generating. And I know many of you will say, listen, I haven't done this. We don't have this type of information for our business. That's okay. You can take industry standards, right? You can start with some assumptions, and with that, start building that knowledge that is going to allow you in the future to have this very good controlled environment that will help you predict this lead generation. So one of the things that we're going to do after the webinar, and I think this is going to be provided to you through your WSI consultant that invited you to the webinar, is that we're going to be providing you with a tool, right? And if we move to the next slide, please. Sorry, I forgot that we had this slide in between, which basically is, think about this funnel that we talked about and make sure that it matches your business, right? So some businesses is going to be very straightforward, from inquiry to qualifying the lead to actually generating a new customer. In other cases, you might have phases, right? You might go from an inquiry to qualifying that lead from a marketing perspective, to then handing that lead to a sales team that will accept that lead and then qualify that lead until they become a new customer. The point here is, if you understand the conversion rates of each of these steps, you can actually build the same calculation that we just did in the past. Okay, so if we move to the next slide, this is the tip I was providing. I was talking to you about before. We will be providing you with our digital marketing traffic and leads calculator that will help you set up the goals for your campaigns, right? And through here, what you will be able to do is plug in the different numbers for the campaigns, maybe model different conversion rates, and try to figure out the type of engine you could be putting together for your marketing campaigns. Okay, so let's move to step 2, okay? And step 2 is about buyer personas. So what is a buyer persona? A buyer persona is a semi-fictional representation of our ideal customer. And this is based out of market research or real data that we have on our existing customers, right? The point here is that we really want to understand what interests them, what pains do they have, what challenges do they have to do business with us. So let's continue with the example of this online barbecue store, right? Real e-commerce site. And let's assume that we have 2 different buyer personas for this business. We have Ronald, the grill enthusiast. Ronald is very, very interested in everything. He's doing grills every weekend. He's very interested in grills that have all of the different functionalities that allows him to do all of the different dishes that he wants. And then you have Mickey, the weekend entertainer, right? And Mickey is really just interested in entertaining friends and family. Grilling is one of the things that he does, but he does many, many other things inside the house. He's just really entertaining, right? So the way this business would talk to each of these buyer personas is going to be different because they have different needs and different interests, right? By the way, I'm more the Ronald than the Mickey, if you had any questions about that. So some ideas for gathering the information you need to build your buyer personas. I mean, one thing you could do is you could talk to your customers, right? Run some customer interviews, ask some questions to try to understand what attracts them to your business. You can study your contact database and try to identify through the contact database any information that is relevant to how your ideal customer behaves. A very, very good way of gathering information on buyer personas is your website forms, right? So on your website forms, on top of collecting contact information, you can actually be collecting information about their role, their income, many different things that could be relevant to building your buyer persona. And one of the best ways of gathering information on your buyer personas are just talking to your sales teams, right? Sales feedback. There's nobody better positioned in your business to know about your buyer personas than your top producers, right? The people that are actually closing the deals. Now, one of the tips I'm going to give you today is that once you've gathered some information on your current customers, run a workshop, right? Put together a team from your company and brainstorm and create your buyer personas. To help you with this, we will be getting you a template on how to create buyer personas for your business. This is a tool that we will be delivering to you after the webinar and would allow you to run this workshop with your team and start building these buyer personas. Okay. Now let's talk about the buyer's journey. So now we know how many leads we need. We understand who our ideal customer is. Now we need to think about what journey they go through, right? And what is a buyer journey? A buyer journey is the process buyers go through to become aware of needing something, of a pain, of a need they have, to consider some options to solve that problem, to then deciding how they're going to solve that problem, right? So in its simplest term, it goes from awareness to consideration to decision, right? So now let me take you through the example, the example of Ronald, right? So Ronald is a real enthusiast. He's at the awareness stage, he's thinking, well, I'm grilling and my grill is looking quite rusty. I think I'll need to replace it very soon, right? At that stage, he's not ready to make a purchase, but he's realizing that his grill is not going to last that long. A few months pass by, and now he's at consideration stage. He's grilling again, and he's really thinking that he needs to change it now. He goes online and he finds a blog, right? And his thinking is, I found some great options on this blog. These 3 brands seem like the best, right? At decision stage, it's springtime. He wants to get ready for summer. He wants to get ready for grilling season. And he's thinking, something, I'm buying brand A. Brand A is the right one for me. I just need to decide what size is the right one for me, right? So at that stage, he's already made his choice. He's now finalizing some information. So the point here is, in order to take Ronald through that buyer's journey, we need different pieces of content that will keep him interested in our business and will keep him engaged with us, right? Now, it's important that you match this journey to your type of business, right? So if you're a B2B business, maybe your lead nurturing goes from leads to marketing qualified leads to running a demo to closing a deal, right? Maybe if you're a retail or a restaurant, you can do a day in the life journey, which is from early morning to afternoon to nighttime. People have different needs, right? So if you have a restaurant in the mornings, you are probably promoting a breakfast or coffee, while at evening you're promoting takeout, right? So depending on what type of business you run, you want to match that journey to your type of business. Okay. Now, we've talked about our goal, we talked about our ideal customers, we talked about their journey. Now let's talk about what type of content and offers is going to keep them engaged with their business, right? And I guess you've heard this before, when it comes to marketing, one size rarely fits all. So we need to ensure that your strategy is effective at nurturing and generating these leads. You really need to deliver the right message and the right content to the right people at the right time, right? This is really what this is all about, right? So let's talk about this in a little bit more detail. One of the things that I suggest doing when you're thinking about content and the content you have to be putting out there is to start by running a content audit. How do you do this? Well, you've created your buyer personas, right? So you know who your ideal customer is. You've documented their journey, so you know what steps they take to make a decision. Now, you can start identifying what content would work best in each phase of their journey, right? What is it that your customer will need in each of the stages to actually make a decision and stay engaged with your business. The next step would be to review and catalog the content you already have. In our businesses, we already have a lot of information that is valuable to our customers, right? We maybe have checklists, maybe we have case studies, maybe we've written some articles. We just maybe not offering them as content or as offers, but we have them, right? So review and catalog if you have any content, and then map that content to the journey that you already developed, right? And that way you'll identify where you have gaps. And wherever you have a gap of content, then that's where you can actually focus on building that and that content that is gonna address that gap. One of the tips that I'm going to give you, if you don't know where to start thinking about content, is that there are several tools that can help you research what type of content resonates with your audience, right? One of my favorites is Answer the Public. Just go answerthepublic.com, and with that tool, which is free, by the way, you can actually type in this case, in this example, I typed in best outdoor grills, and this tool is going to search online for all of the ways people are searching for your content, and it's going to give you hundreds of different examples of how people are searching for your content. And that's going to give you ideas of the type of content that you could be putting out there that is going to be relevant to your audience, right? So in this case, we can see that one of the pieces of content here for best outdoor grills is what is the best outdoor grill in 2020, right? Anyway, let's move on. So another big element of working with content is developing offers, valuable offers. And in the digital marketing world, we call them lead magnets. And a lead magnet is basically a free item or service that is given away to a prospect for the purpose of gathering their contact details. So the offer is basically what makes this anonymous visitor to our site an actual lead, right? And these offers could vary by stages in the funnel. We know that top of the funnel offers that work really well are ebooks, templates, white papers, blogs. Those work really well. Now, when you go down in the consideration and decision stages, you might want to be thinking of lead magnets that are more related to free trials, demos, discounts, etc. Right? So the point here is match the offer to the stage of the funnel that you're addressing. Now, one of the tips I'm going to give you on the creating offers is, as you create lead magnets, try to answer these three questions, right? Does my audience care about it? What I'm planning to offer? Do my audience will actually care about it? Is there value to it? Right? Is there any intrinsic value to it? And does it solve a problem or give my audience something that they need? Right? If you can answer these questions positively, then your offer is probably going to work for you. Okay? Okay, so now let's talk about conversion paths, right? So now we know our audience, we know what journey they go through, we know what could attract them in terms of content. We now have offers that would motivate them to become visible to us. Now we have to create that conversion path. And a conversion path could look something like this, right? It's a process in which an anonymous website visitor becomes a lead. Basically, somebody is maybe searching online and they identify or get promoted through search to find that blog. They come to that blog and we offer them an ebook, right? When they click download our ebook, they are taken to a landing page where there's going to be a conversion form. That conversion form is going to take them to a thank you page where they can actually download the offer. So in its basic structure, a conversion path at least must have a landing page, a conversion form, a thank you page, and an email, right? Because once we capture the information of this new lead, we want to make sure that we have a kickback email being sent to them and putting them into a remote group. So those at a minimum is the 4 elements that you need in terms of conversion path. One of the tips I'm going to give you is that if you have set up Google Analytics for your website, you can actually go into Google Analytics and use the funnel visualization report to actually investigate how your current clients or your current website visitors are behaving on your website. That's going to give you a lot of insights into a lot of ideas into how you might be able to create conversion paths that work for your business. Okay. Now, let's take you through an example. So, Ronald searches online for best charcoal grills in 2021. And this is what comes up for him, right? And as you can see, the first ad that appears here is from Barbecue Guys, and it says best charcoal grills 2021 recommended. So Ronald clicks on that link. And what happens when he clicks is that he gets into this website and into this article, and now he's reading this article that is giving him information on the best charcoal grills. As he's browsing through the page, there's a pop-up that comes up, right? And that pop-up has this offer. Basically, this offer says 3,000 luxury pellet grill giveaway. Enter to win this grill. Just provide your email. So Ronald is going to provide his email because, first of all, this is a valuable offer. It solves his problem, right? There's a lot of value to him. So he fills in this form, presses continue, and it takes him to a second question, which is what's your mobile number? We need this to let you know if you win the 3,000 luxury pellet grill giveaway. So he's going to provide his mobile number. When he enters to win, he's going to receive an email, right? And in this case, Ronald is me. He receives this email from Barbecue Guys saying, welcome to Barbecue Guys. You've entered into this promotion. Now Ronald is in this database and he's going to be getting information, and he's going to be start being tracked by Barbecue Guys every time he comes back to the website, right? So this is the way you create a conversion path, right? So if we move to the next stage, would be then channels, right? So now that we know what conversion path we're gonna be using and who our audience is and what type of content we're going to be promoting, now we can start thinking about what channels we use to create this plan, right? To actually deploy this plan. But you can see how the channels is really a consequence of of the strategy, of what is it that we're trying to achieve, right? So there's the different digital marketing channels, paid search, organic search, social, display, email. Each of them have different benefits, right? So when it comes to search, either organic or paid search, what some of the biggest benefits of it is that it can reach customers at the moment of intent, right? They're showing us their intent because they're actually typing it, what they're looking for, right? It's very flexible for testing, has massive volume available. It can be, in the case of paid, it can be ramped up, down, upward and very quickly, right? It's a hose. You actually put budget in or budget out, and you can ramp it up very quickly once you know it's working. Organic search, when it comes to organic, it takes a little bit of time to work, but once it's working, after that initial investment, it pays dividends, right? Because in terms of traffic, it generates traffic for a longer time. Social, in the same way as paid search, is very flexible for testing. There's a lot of volume available. Again, it can be ramped up or down very, very quickly. It's visual medium, so it could be very good for demand creation, right? So it's not at intent, but you're generating that demand. Same with display. Display advertising would be very similar in that sense. And then a lot of people don't think much about email, but email is one of my favorite tools, because one of my favorite channels, because it's highly measurable for conversions. You're reaching your core audience because you know them. You know they have a verified ID, which is their email, and these email addresses also allows us for targeting other digital advertising channels, right? So don't forget about email. So if we move to the next slide, really, once you decide what channels you want to use, you want to map them to your buyer's journey, right? And this mapping is going to be dependent on your specific buyer's journey. But in general terms, you know, paid social is pretty good for awareness. Google Ads is pretty good for awareness. Search engine optimization. As you move down towards consideration, you might be wanting to use retargeting channels. You might want to be using a pop-up forms, special offers. By the decision stage, you're probably relying a lot on your marketing automation, email marketing, and paid offers as well, right? So depending, this is not very directional because it's going to be dependent on what you're trying to achieve. But think about the different strategies and the different channels and how you map them to that buyer's journey that you've developed in the past. And then we come to reporting, right? And reporting is key because reporting is all about closed loop, closing the loop, right? What is closing the loop? Is basically relying on data and insights to close the loop between the marketing activities and the sales results. And this is very, very important. I have a couple of case studies with clients where we were generating lots of leads and we thought we were doing great, and we did not do the closed loop reporting appropriately. We weren't asking, or the client wasn't giving us feedback from the sales team. We were hearing the feedback from the marketing team, and the sales team was not approving of those leads, right? So until you get that feedback, you don't know if the leads you're generating are correct, right? So once you get that feedback, then you can then turn it around and make the changes you need to the marketing campaign to close the loop and make sure that you can close those leads. So how does this work? First of all, a potential buyer visits your website for the first time, right? The prospect's browser uses cookies to track their unique activities, right? So now we're tracking this visitor, and each of his actions or her actions and page visits are recorded on a one-to-one level, right? On our marketing systems. Using lead magnets and offers and forms, the user has an opportunity to convert and provide their contact info. And using an email as a unique identifier, then this visitor previously tracked behaviors are associated with the profile. And so now, once we've converted that anonymous visitor to a customer, the tracked touch points are credited with the conversion. So now we can identify this person with all of these behaviors, and we can then track exactly what path they took to convert with us, right? So some of the benefits of closed loop reporting is you get a better focus on the right channels and offers. You know what's actually working better for your business, a better understanding of your results. You're going to gain a lot of insight on your target audience. You can set the right goals and expectations because you start understanding the right cycles for your business. And you can, by focusing on the right channels and the right strategies, you can keep your cost per lead low, right? So one of the tips I'm going to give you is that, use software that out of the box integrates marketing tools with CRMs, right? With customer relationship management tools. Some of my personal favorites are HubSpot, SharpSpring, and Vivout. All of them are partners of us with WSI. The interesting thing is that you don't have to be an enterprise business to have access to these tools. Businesses of all sizes will find tools that match their scale and their budget. So think about using tools that could actually integrate all of these in one out of the box, okay? So in summary, determine your revenue goals, right? Understand what is it that you're trying to achieve and what the digital contribution to it that you're expecting. Understand your buyer personas and their journey, right? Spend time on that and really get an understanding, because that's gonna pay off in dividends going forward. Create the content and the funnel that is right for your business, right? Invest in that, because that's going to allow you to generate this demand. And then my advice to you is test, try out, learn, and measure results, right? Marketing is not an exact science. We need to go out there, we need to test our hypotheses, we need to try them out, we need to measure results, and we need to iterate and optimize as much as we can to get the results that we need, okay? And that's it, that's the 7 steps. Back to you, Cheryl. I don't know.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Gerardo. Great tips and strategies you shared there. Now, I know we covered a lot of different steps. It was 7. And depending on what your team structure is, the resources you have available, you may require help with some of the stuff that we talked. And that's where a WSI consultant can really step in if that's something that you need help with. So if you're ever looking for more help in any of the 7 areas that Gerardo talked about, your lead gen strategy in general, reach out to the WSI consultant that invited you to this webinar. Also, reach out to them to get your copy of the traffic and leads calculator, as well as that persona document too, the ebook. And if you're not already connected with a WSI consultant, reach out to us at contact@WSI World. We'll have someone reach out to you so you can have those discussions. Now, Q&A. We do have some questions in here I want to get to and address. The first one comes, let me just open this up here. So Claudio is asking, if I'm starting a new business, what would be a good way to gather information for my buyer personas if I don't already have maybe existing client base to pull from and some of those things you talked about to gather that information? Is there somewhere where you could maybe recommend how he could get started if they're just starting out and really want to get those buyer personas defined?
So there's nothing wrong on working on a hypothesis, right? So you can still go through the buyer persona template and do a brainstorm with friends and family or partners that you have in your business and try to figure out that buyer persona, and then go out and test that with actual potential clients, right? That's one way. I think the important thing here is that you have a starting point, and the buyer personas are not going to be something that is not going to be changed over time. You're going to learn more things as you go through your campaigns that are going to input your buyer personas and are going to be perfecting them, right? So it's okay to go with hypotheses and go out and test. A tip I'm going to give Claudio is that you can also look at other businesses that are targeting the same audience that you're targeting and try to figure out how they're doing it, right? Because that's going to give you an idea of their buyer personas, which are probably going to be similar to what you're trying to target.
Yeah, do a little R&D is always good. And guys, yeah, personas aren't something that you build them and then you leave them. I think if anything, we saw huge changes with how people were motivated and their pain points just over the last year, right? When the whole world kind of changed on us. And so we redefining and always relooking and listening to, your sales team on maybe some of the other things they're hearing as they're talking to people is always good. So if you've already defined them, but it's been a while, it's always good to maybe use this time to kind of revisit. And generally speaking, how many personas is the right number of personas to have?
Well, I don't think there's a rule of thumb, Cheryl. I think some businesses will have dozens of personas depending on their complexity. I would say when we work with our clients in our agency and we run these types of workshops, we try to build between 3 and 5, right? I think that's a manageable number, and it's a number that we can go out and test. But it will depend on your business, right? It will really depend on the type of business that you have. I would say if you start with 3, that's a good number.
Awesome. We have a question here now. I know you talked about, at the end, you were talking about the reporting aspect of it. And Paul has asked, I mean, you didn't really get into attribution specifically, but we know we're always trying to figure out how did our leads come in, right? What was the channel that did that? Can you maybe from your end just talk a little bit about how you advise your clients on just, connecting the dots between the advertising they're doing and the leads that are coming in so they can see the value for their money and the campaigns they're running?
Of course. So it's very, very important when you're connecting the dots and when you're creating this closed loop reporting that you are putting in place all of the building blocks to be able to attribute where the leads are coming from, right? And you do this through tagging your campaigns. There's UTM tagging that you can do on your campaigns. There's different things that you could be doing on Google Analytics to identify if people are finding you through search, keywords they're using, if they're coming through an advertising campaign, if they're coming through a referral source or through a social media post. It's important that you connect all of those dots. So when you're when you are evaluating your sales numbers, you can identify exactly where those numbers are coming from, right? And where those leads that are closing, or those valuable leads that are coming to you, where is it that they're coming from? But you have to plan it. That's I think the point I'm trying to make here is that as you're building your campaigns, you need to think through these things and make sure that you are connecting the dots intentionally, right?
Yeah, for sure. And I know, so Jane has a question, kind of almost like maybe a comment and following up. And a lot of some of these tools we used, we mentioned HubSpot, SharpSpring, Vibo even can pull in some of that information from an attribution standpoint. They do their best to attribute how it came in. If you're not using a tool like that, there's a lot of stuff you can do at the URL level to pull in that tracking information too. And so UTM tracking, like adding actual information based on the campaign you're running right into the URL and the lead source, that can get pulled dynamically into Google Analytics. Are you doing, do you advise, or how are you using that with clients?
Well, the point is, you have to set up Google Analytics for your business, and you have to be able to track your goals and the behavior on Google Analytics. And as you're building up these campaigns, you want to make sure that you're using UTM tracking codes and setting up everything you have to set up from at a campaign standpoint, so at least you can look at it on Google Analytics, right? So my advice is, for example, even for webinars, right? Even for this webinar, each consultant that that invited you to the webinar, they have a unique link to registration, so we can actually attribute which which invitation you're coming from to this webinar, and we can let that person know. So it's to that level, making sure that your campaigns are trackable, so you can then attribute conversions and visitors to those campaigns.
Yeah, and so Jane, if you're maybe, talk to the consultant you might be working with, or if you're not working one, you can talk to the expert that's running your campaigns. But there's definitely tracking you can add to campaign URLs to pull in, so someone came from PPC, and then through your system attribute how much money based on their order, the value you got from there. In your mind, sorry, Gerardo, any difference in the 7 steps between a B2B company or a B2C, or are these kind of like, these are the standard ones regardless?
I would say the process is the same. Obviously, the outcome is going to be different if you're a B2B than if you're a B2C, or if you're in an e-commerce site. But I think the important thing of the 7 steps is that you think through, first of all, what is it that you're trying to achieve in terms of number of leads, right? And how they contribute to your goals. And then really think through the process of who are my ideal customers, what's their journey, and how I'm going to be attracting them, right? I think the reason we put together these 7 steps is because we were facing many clients that were coming at us at the channel stage saying, we want to do this, right? And our question was, how do you know that you need social? How do you know that you need paid advertising? Who are you trying? So once we started having those conversations, we identified that all of that previous piece was not resolved yet. And the issue is, if you don't have that pre-work resolved, you might be wasting a lot of your investment, because you are testing many. I mean, you're shooting to the air at that point, right?
Yeah.
Because you don't know exactly who you're targeting and how you're gonna attract their attention, right? So I think it's better to start slow. Maybe spend the first month of your campaign resolving these questions before you start investing in your actual campaign.
Awesome. So I'm just looking at the time. I think that's a good point to kind of wrap up, because a lot of questions that you guys have in the chat right now are somewhat, very specific to your business offering. And so make sure you're having those conversations with whoever's helping you with your digital marketing strategy. And if you need someone to help out, WSI is definitely here to help you out with anything and clarify any questions that we had here. So reach out to the consultant that invited you here today. Now, if you want to learn more about digital marketing in general, we do have a book on digital marketing that we've published in Amazon. It's called A Strategic Approach to Connecting and Engaging, there it is, with your customers online. It's available on Amazon if you want to get your copy. It's 12 chapters that go through the entire kind of strategic approach with digital. So it talks a little bit about lead gen, but it talks also about buyer personas and understanding how you learn more about your customers and stuff like that. So I would refer you to catch up on by reading that. Pardo, thanks so much for joining us today and taking time out of your schedule to kind of just educate us and walk us through this process. Again, I want to thank everyone for joining us as well and taking time out of your schedule to join and hear what we have to say. So we are going to have a survey that pop up when you leave. Make sure you share some feedback on our presentation today. We'd love to hear it. And we do run monthly webinars on digital marketing. Our next one will be at the end of April. We're going to be talking a little bit more about increasing your visibility for local searches. So, you know, doing more local search engine optimization and strategies around that. So watch for invitations and social and your inbox for that. Until then, have a great day, and I hope to see you on our next webinar.
Thank you, everyone. See you soon.
Bye all.